Oh, sorry. Ready? Good evening, everyone. We are convening a meeting of the Home Rule School District Charter Commission. The time is approximately 10 after 6. And the commission has been duly appointed by the Dallas Independent School District Board of Trustees. It's Monday, April 20th, 2015. And we are meeting in the boardroom at the Dallas ISD Central Administration Building on 3700 Ross Avenue, Dallas, Texas. The subjects we are going to discuss or be considered, or upon which any formal action may be taken, are listed below. Items do not have to be taken in the same order as shown on the meeting notice and the agenda. We'll first establish a quorum. Welcome, Commissioner. Oh. Let it be known that Commissioner Vesey's arrived with a dramatic flair.
Strolling in.
So we will start on my left. Commissioner Reese, would you state your name and say present?
Benita Reese, present.
This way. T. Marcus Orrington, present.
Julie Sandell, present.
Luke Blackburn Jr., present.
Ron Oliver, present.
Bob Weiss, present.
Jeff Vesey, present.
Edward Flores, present.
Isaac Freeman, present.
The quorum has been officially established. Will you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Our next item is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. They were posted and sent to you. If hearing no objections, I entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Rangers, seconded by Commissioner Oliver. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none in opposition, motion carries unanimously. So let me tell you about the structure of the agenda in just a few minutes. We're pleased tonight that we have Trustee Dan Midgekay. And before we get going, if you'll state your name, Commissioner, and say present.
Present. Isom Newsom.
Okay, present. And we also were expecting Trustee Elizabeth Jones. She left me a message that she might not be able to make it for personal reasons, so if she's here, we'll afford her the opportunity to speak, and if she's not, I left a message back that whatever she was intending to say, we would certainly put it in the record and she could put it in writing. Then the next order of business, I have put in front of you a couple of pending bills in the state legislature that have been done in response to our work as the Home Rule Charter Commission, and I'll review those. And then the administrative, we'll talk a little bit about our governance subcommittee scheduled for tomorrow. And then the action item is, based on what you asked me to do last week, was to find out how we exit. Through multiple conversations, you'll see an item where we just technically canceled the meetings from the calendar we originally posted in the fall, and we had agreed on trying to give a statement to the board or a letter just saying our work was done at their May 28th meeting, but that means we still had 2 June meetings, which we have to formally, by motion, cancel, which would leave the May meetings, and I have a statement and we'll have a discussion about that at the appropriate time. So with that, I'd like to introduce Trustee Midgekay, who, when we invited the trustees to that meeting that night, was not able to come for personal reasons, and he and I have been exchanging emails and messages about when he could join us and let us know what he thinks we can do to improve the district. So you have the floor, Trustee Midgekay.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Feels unusual to be in this seat.
Excuse me, I have been remiss. We have an elected official in our midst, Trustee Foreman. If you pull the tapes, everyone, I apologize. I have been remiss for 10 months now of failing to do my duty as chair, so pardon my interruption. Trustee Midgekay.
Okay. Well, thank you for allowing me to come before you at this time. As Chairman Weiss indicated, I was not able to come before this body when the other trustees came before you. And first, I'd like to thank you all for your service on this commission. I know you've had to put in a lot of time. I know you've had to endure some criticism, unfair in my view. I think I've paid close attention to these proceedings, and I think you all have taken this job very seriously and been very conscientious about it. And I really do thank you for doing that. And let me also add, and I think all of you probably know this, is that I agree with the decision that you reached not to write a charter, and I believe you arrived at that after doing a considerable amount of due diligence. So thank you very much. I know you're trying to determine how to wrap this up. I believe the commission's life ends on, is it June 30th?
June 19th.
June 19th, okay. And you obviously don't have enough time to write Dallas Achieves all over again or do a critique of Destination 2020. And I'd like to, I think, offer you a sensible choice, one that I previously sent to you in an email several months ago. And I think it's a practical suggestion, I think it's viable, and I think it would immediately help children. And that is that instead of sending the Board of Trustees a long list of recommendations, please consider making only one recommendation and make it to the community at large. Make a district-wide call to action for individuals, neighborhoods, community organizations, churches, businesses, and other institutions to volunteer today in our elementary schools as reading tutors. By focusing on that one item that calls for specific, immediate action and urges community involvement in a targeted way that would help improve student achievement, I think the Commission could have a major impact on our students and our district. You already made the decision that you were statutorily required to make, which is not to write a charter. And I know that a number of you want to make some sort of statement in concluding your work. And a statement calling for community involvement in a specific way, I think, would go a lot further than giving the board a long list of recommendations that, you know, we can all, I think, come up with 50 of them off the top of our heads, from increasing parent involvement to smaller class sizes to more professional development, early childhood education. I really don't think the board will find those types of recommendations helpful in the sense of telling us something that we don't already know. But I do think that the impact of the Commission wrapping up with a statement to the public calling for action. We spent 2 years building a volunteer tutoring program. It's modeled on Reading Partners. Reading Partners is in 18 of those schools. And we have a total of 94 schools that have programs that are modeled more or less on Reading Partners. Some of them developed in-house, most of them developed in-house, and many of them are with other organizations like Readers to Leaders. I think we all know, especially if you've sat here long enough, that the data shows that almost 2/3 of the children who enter DISD as 5-year-olds are not ready for kindergarten based on the kindergarten ready assessment tests. And we also know that if a child is not reading at grade level by 3rd grade, the child is 4 times more likely to drop out of school, and many more times more likely not to attend college or succeed in the workforce. So it's a very short period of time that we have to catch children up, and particularly in reading. And the goal of the board policy that created these volunteer tutoring programs was to address that need and to bring more community members into our schools. And obviously we all agree that the most important thing we can do is invest in our youth. Several of these programs have data that indicates that with 1 or 2 hours a week over a 6-month period, that you can catch a child up in reading by 1 grade level. So my thought is that if this commission wraps up a conclusion with that we need more community involvement, and here's a targeted way to do it, and here's something that the community should start doing now, as opposed to a more general call for early childhood education, volunteering generally in the schools, but wrapping it up with a phone number and an email address and please get started would make a much bigger impact than a long laundry list of recommendations, as I said. I think, and this is consistent with my own experience, that we have a lot of people in this community who have time to volunteer. They don't really know what to do. Often they come to our schools, and certainly in the past, and they were told to come back or to do, or they wind up making copies or something like that. Here we've put in place the kind of program where volunteers can help students achieve academically. And we've had over 20,000 volunteers in the district for a long time. I ran a volunteer program for my company before I was on the board for 7 years. And we did, as I look back on it, we did lots of different things. Things like painting the cafeteria, and doing yard work, and a number of other things that didn't really have any impact on student achievement. And what we as a board were trying to do when we expanded these volunteer tutoring programs was to channel the community support that we have into the kinds of things that would help students achieve academic success. The other thing that I think is a really important benefit is that the people who come in to volunteer will have a really good picture of what the challenges are in our district. I think a lot of people do not realize, even though over the past 2 years there's been a lot of attention on the high level of poverty in our city, and it's the highest among large cities in the United States. But I think when people come into our schools and see some of the challenges that our teachers, our staff, our employees face, there'll be a renewed respect for the job that they do. And it's a side benefit. The main benefit, of course, is to try to help kids achieve academically. And Shirley sent me a note when I first sent this email, and I actually appreciated the note because she said there are no simple solutions, only intelligent choices. And at this point, I'm not offering this volunteer tutoring up as a simple solution, but I am offering it up as an intelligent choice for this commission to make a statement before you wrap this up. So that really concludes the statement that I want to make to you. I'm here, can stay here for a little while to answer questions. And again, thank you for the opportunity to address you, and thank you for your service as commissioners.
Thank you. I appreciate the warm words. I think you've accurately described our work. What we've done when we met with the trustees is just go around to see who had a question and focus the question and give you a chance to respond. We've done 1 or 2 rounds just depending on the time that the trustee had to offer us. So if you're willing to do that, I'll just ask if anyone would like to, and I'll start on my right, have a follow-up question.
How many volunteers would it take to fully support a reading mentor program in the ISD?
Well, to staff all 94 schools where we have programs, we have 147 elementary schools. 94 of them have one type of volunteer tutoring program, one sort or another. About 5,000 volunteers is what we would need to recruit. We have about a little short of 2,000, and it takes a while to get people to realize that they can actually make a difference. This is not grandma just reading a story to kids. These are structured tutoring programs with actual lessons that are a curriculum that's coordinated with the principal and teachers. It's been very successful, of course, Jeff, as you know, in our part of town. But these volunteer tutoring programs are throughout the district and fairly evenly dispersed.
Well, my question, Ron?
Yeah, thank you for coming tonight. You were mentioning give them a phone number and give them an email address, because I'm like thinking you're right. It's a sense of urgency about doing it now. Would it be easier, more beneficial, if they were to get in contact through someone that at school level or out of the school level, like maybe through the district? Because I'm just going to suppose that some principals might be more open to this than others. Yes, surprisingly, but so I didn't know if it might be more helpful to maybe go through the district or go through the individual school.
Well, I think you can go either way. And I would defer to the administration on how exactly to funnel requests to be part of the program. I do know in East Dallas, it's pretty easy to be part of the reading programs there, which we call Roaring Readers. Okay. And Roaring for the Cougars. That's our feeder pattern over there. And and then in the Vickery Meadow area, we have 2 schools that have reading partners. And we also have reading partners in one of the 2 schools in my district that are in the Skyline feeder pattern at Truett. But some of those are just very easy. If you know the school that you want to volunteer at, you can look at our website and find it.
Correct.
But if you were actually going to consider this suggestion, I would suggest you talk with the administration and ask them what is the best phone number, website, contact person. We don't want people getting lost in a switchboard maze either.
Right.
So.
Fair enough. Yes. We'll just go around the horseshoe here.
Okay. Well, good evening, and thank you for coming and joining us this afternoon, and also thank you for the words that you opened your statement with. Forgive me, I got something. I think the research is very clear that one-on-one engagements with kids pays off really big through reading, volunteer programs, and mentoring programs. I am reminded that my church, St. Luke Community United Methodist Church, was the only African American church in the country to adopt a school when they had the I Have a Dream program. And you may recall that program took a 5th grade class and followed them all the way through graduation with volunteers mentoring and tutoring the kids all the way through high school graduation. The graduation and going to college rate for that 5th grade class that we adopted at Martin Luther King was called Colonial Elementary at the time, but changed to Martin Luther King, was something like 96% of those kids graduated on time and entered college. So, I mean, the research long term is right on target with that need. My question to you, Mr. Mitchkay, is given the fact that the district has a volunteer office to do just what you have said, to get volunteers and support for schools, why is that not happening already? And how would this commission extend what is already supposed to be in place? The board, I believe, has endorsed folk coming in to volunteer to read. You've got Reading Partners, which was also endorsed by the board, and I'm assuming you want to extend that. How does this commission, making the one recommendation, do what is already, I think is already in place, or appears to be in place, but maybe not fully operating?
Sure. I think that's an excellent question. I think that we always need more volunteers. We're at 89% free and reduced, and like I said, the latest stats that I saw on kindergarten readiness was in the mid-60s. Less than, or 65% or so of our kids are not ready for kindergarten when they start school. So we have a huge need, and every time we make a call like this, we get an upsurge in volunteers. In one of those emails that, in the email that I sent you, there's an op-ed article that that Trustee Nuttall and I submitted to the Morning News, and the same day that was in the newspaper, we got somewhere in the neighborhood of 90, 95 people, and I didn't follow up to see how many came in after, but I mean that's a significant number of kids who are affected. And and as I was saying before about choices, that you have the choice of giving us a laundry list. You don't have time to do maybe you do. I mean, I haven't been watching you all that much, but you don't, in my opinion, have the time to write the kind of comprehensive set of recommendations that Dallas Achieves did, or that the administration did in putting together its plan. So it then becomes kind of so general and abstract that the report covers a lot of issues, but doesn't necessarily have an impact. And again, I just offer this as a suggestion. It's totally up to you, whatever you do, but I'm looking at this as an opportunity to get another 100 tutors in our tutoring program, or maybe more.
Please know that I think it's a good suggestion. But my point was and is that given that there is a structure within the district to garner volunteers, how might we best do that structurally wise? Do we ask every church, which I think is one avenue to go, to get 10 volunteers, and we got about 1,000 churches in the city, so that's 10,000 volunteers. If every church did 10. Or do we go to all the civic organizations? There's almost 2 churches for every elementary school in Dallas. I kind of looked at that one time when I was trying to get volunteers. So I'm just thinking structurally beyond what is already in place, how does one do that?
Well,
good suggestion.
I appreciate that background. I mean, that's certainly been my perception, and one of the places that I always try to recruit volunteers from our churches. I mean, this is perfect for churches. It's the kind of work that they can engage in, that has everybody working on task, and churches have lots of people who want to volunteer and help kids. I mean, I think it's great to work with them. In terms of the mechanics, though, of how this commission might issue a report that calls for more groups and organizations to get involved in this way, I would defer to the administration on exactly how the best way to funnel it is. I mean, they do have extensive mailing lists and contacts, but your report would be also going to the public, and it would be the kind of thing that would get some coverage, and so it's an opportunity to
Visibility.
get the visibility. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Okay. Commissioner Blackburn.
Trustee Mitchgate, thank you for coming, and thank you for your insight and suggestion. When the other trustees came, I would always ask them, I think the only question I had for them was, what would you like the community to do? And that's kind of obvious in your suggestion. I also agree with what you're saying, and I think that it does not take much. And very often I think volunteers or anybody is scared when they're working with children. They don't want to break the children. They don't want to start them on the wrong path. I don't know I don't know the district's full volunteer programs and reading volunteer program, but if, as you say, the district has been working on it, then I trust that it is something that somebody can come in and easily pick up or easily follow. And I would hope that we do have others. Like you say, you ran a volunteer program at your company. I would hope we could have a lot of people who are downtown and outside of downtown, and maybe those who are in Richardson and Plano can kind of come to the northern Dallas schools or whatever. We have a bunch of people who can take the time, and in addition to that, we have retirees, maybe from those companies or just retirees within our neighborhoods. I often say that for my own children's school, you have a lot of grandparents that are just sitting outside the schools for about an hour or so at the end of the school day, and I would love to push them inside to read or to listen to the children read, whatever it can be. I agree we have a wealth of potential volunteers out there, and hopefully we can find a way to support our students with that potential volunteerism. And that's all I have. Thank you again.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that in one of those articles that I linked in that email that I sent a couple of months ago, the end of the article is about a person who was afraid to try tutoring, and she concludes, well, it's not that hard to stay ahead of a first grader after all. So.
I don't know, you haven't met my grandson.
I feel disconnected from this because I teach high school, and I have so many students that either did not go through the Dallas Public Schools, or they hopscotched around so much that by the time we get them in 9th grade, the problems are already there. And I don't have any particular suggestions, but we have a gaping need for someone to come in to those kids who are coming into English-speaking schools for the first time in the 9th grade, or who have gone all over. I had a little boy come from California. He'd spent 6 weeks doing I don't know what, and he hadn't been in school. And so as they get older, it gets harder to figure out what to do, but the need is still really, really bad. So I don't have a suggestion. I don't know what we might do, but kindergarten is one person's problem. I'm dealing with kids. I don't want to go to jail or, so I'm not sure what we would do about that. Did you have any thoughts?
Well, I think the earlier you intervene, the more effective it is and the less costly it is, and the more people who can actually participate in the intervention. So if a child is having a hard time learning the alphabet, most people can help. If they're having a hard time understanding geometry, you've brought the universe of people who can help down to about 5%. And So, as you're undoubtedly aware, we have lots of needs in this district, and I'm not saying this is a panacea, the magic bullet. I'm just saying this is one way that we can effectively use lots and lots of volunteers, and it doesn't mean that we don't have those serious problems, and I'm extremely concerned about that. And the way the state, the federal government, and the district applying those rules compute the graduation rate doesn't really tell the whole story. An 88% graduation rate, to a large extent, doesn't take into account the fact that the 9th grade class and in most of our high schools is way bigger than the 12th grade class. And so the way we all applaud throughout the state, throughout the nation, how the graduation rate has gone up, it really doesn't take into account the way I would compute a graduation rate, which would be how many of those 9th graders graduated. Yeah.
Well, and it's not just how many graduated, like where do they go? I've taught 9th grade for years, and I'm now teaching juniors and seniors, and did they disappear? I mean, so many kids just kind of shuffle off to nowhere. I don't know that we can do anything about that, but it's not like they're sitting in the school not graduating. They're gone. And I don't know where they go to or how we would keep up with that.
Yeah, I recognize the problem. I mean, there are other intervention strategies there, but I think, and I'll just go back to my experience when our company decided to adopt a school, and we found that when we asked people, they wanted to adopt the elementary school because they felt safer. And since we have so many needs, instead of having people sit on the sideline, let's get them doing something rather than try to solve everything at once. That just sort of a practical view of things.
I think that's true.
Okay. Mr. Ranger, did you want to ask a question?
I have a comment. My wife started a reading program that lasted for about 10 years. It was an African American reading program, and I think it was started with $50,000 from Verizon Communications. It became the largest reading program in America directed towards African American children until it was killed after she became a member of Dallas ISD's board.
This was before she was on the board, Mark?
No, it was started before she was on the board.
Okay.
But after a number of issues came up after she got on the board, it was killed. So I have a natural sympathy for, not sympathy, I have a natural attraction to any reading program because reading is the foundation of all education. There's no question about it. The research is very clear. In terms of the Home Rule Charter Commission ending its activities as a commission, I think you bring this forward as both a way to conclude but also to accomplish something community-wide that does not require interaction, approval of the board. It does not require anything other than a positive reception from the community. Not only do I believe it's a good idea, I think it makes all the sense in the world for those who want to just conclude on, for lack of a better term, a positive high note, because it is positive.
Sure.
And, it gives a way for this commission to deposit something that is very simple, it's very doable, it doesn't matter what's going on already. The point is, we're trying to encourage people to engage in our schools. It supports the notion of the public involvement in public schools. It does engage the community directly. I mean, this is the commission speaking directly to our community, if I heard it correctly. I mean, that was the way I interpreted it. So I think it's a very good thing for this commission to consider. I have no problem supporting it whatsoever, because it does potentially help the children directly. And if we can get, well, I'd like to see several hundred people come in from it, but the point is, regardless of that result, it has so many positive attributes. I mean, and it's very specific. It doesn't take us off on all kinds of wild goose chases and get us into great disputes, ideological and otherwise. And I think the community would receive it well. And I like the idea of speaking directly to our community. So I support the idea and would be very happy to vote for it. If this commission decides to engage it, and do it, I will be voting for it.
Good. Thank you.
And I think it would be a good way of concluding on a very positive note without a lot of, a lot of engagement about so many issues that we could all have different opinions about. But I think it will bring us together to focus on something just this simple.
Okay, I appreciate that, Commissioner Reese.
I think it's a great idea. We reach out to the community, and in essence, the community wanted something, but in turn, I think in a couple of the meetings we asked them to tell us what they wanted, and in turn, we can extend to them what we need from them. They want all these things to come to pass, but here's how they can contribute. We got a good start at creating a forum for dialogue, and now the call to action would be just the icing on the cake.
Well, as chair, I've generally reserved the last comment. So first, thank you again for your kind words about the commission's work. And I'm sorry, Commissioner Freeman?
No, it's fine.
No, didn't look right. My whip here is gone, so.
It's okay. I don't really necessarily have a question, just to comment. I teach 6th grade reading, and I mean, 100% agree. You can see the gaps start to widen, between students, and you can tell which students have a strong background in reading and which ones don't. And you can also see that the kids that I see in 6th grade, I can already tell which ones are going to be, it's like you start to see the divergence in 6th grade. You start to see which students are on the track toward graduation and which ones are on the track toward dropout. And it's extremely frustrating, because there's only so much that we can do, and there's only so much that you can stand before you have to kind of distance yourself a little bit from being emotionally compromised by because it's a very emotional situation to watch your kids do this, and you're doing everything you can. So I think I'm 100% behind anything that could potentially prevent that divergence from happening as early as possible. I think it's disheartening to watch. We have volunteers and stuff too. We a partnership with Fidelity, and we've got that they come in, they bring in volunteers and stuff to help with reading and everything. But by a certain point, it's just so much more difficult to intervene with a 14-year-old than it is to intervene with a 5-year-old. And yes, I do believe we absolutely need to address the 14-year-olds and the 13-year-olds and the 12-year-olds, but I 100% agree with you that this is a practical way to address a long-term problem now, so that down the road, I guess I don't really have a question, just more of yes. It's basically I have not heard of the program before, to be honest, but it sounds wonderful.
Commissioner, I'm sorry.
That's all I have.
Yeah, we'll just do another round. Commissioner Austin.
It just came to me that when we talk about community, it's not always just outside of the ISD. When my son was in high school, they had to do so many hours of community service. And he volunteered at the Health for Profession School for the girls who were pregnant, which I thought was an interesting choice on his part. But to this day, he runs into the principal and a lot of teachers who remember him from this day. So as we look at community and recruiting volunteers, I really think we ought to look at that whole notion of high school students participating in reading, tutoring within their theater pattern, and give them community service hours for that. It would expand the base greatly. but also be training a group of young folk who can go beyond just the school day, but at home with their siblings or kids in their neighborhood to give them the support that they need. And it's a ready body. So I would just throw that in.
Yeah, that's an excellent suggestion, and we do, of course, have those volunteers here and there, and if a more coordinated approach to having high school students, help first graders might be a really good idea. Over in Far East Dallas, Bishop Lynch and Truett Elementary are basically separated by a gigantic park. And I believe we have something like 70 volunteers from Bishop Lynch who participate in the Reading Partners program at Truett. Huge help for us, and I think it's really great for high school kids.
And they're required to get community service. And my son went to Bishop Dunn. They're required to get X number of hours of community service all through their high school years. And we ought to do something like that too. But
Thank you. And I have allergies that are worse than yours. I think
I put money on that.
Again, I would just...
Better let me go soon.
Yeah, not well. I thought you were weeping at the loving, but now that it's allergies. I would just tip my hat to my immediate past employer now that I'm retired. The Meadows Foundation for a long time has funded high school volunteer projects. And I would commend someone in the district to call over to the foundation and actually gave small stipends to encourage this. So if you ask me, I will call in and find out. I don't know if the program's still going on, but when I retired, it was still active. But let me say in general about Reading Partners, and this is the practical side of me, because I think it's a wonderful idea, and in the spirit of disclosure, when I worked for the foundation, Reading Partners was a tenant at the Meadows Foundation. So, but to have a well-structured program requires money. And what I'm curious about is the infrastructure the district provides contractually to something like Reading Partners so that they have enough case management to take this influx of volunteers. And when I was as their landlord, I thought it was a phenomenal program. It could make a difference in Dallas, and money was also given. The question that was curious to me was the infrastructure in this tutoring office. I don't know exactly what it's called, but to pick up on what you've heard here, is the district fund these nonprofit partners to help with the infrastructure so that I'm retired, this is my only volunteer gig for the DISD. When this is over, would it be easy for me in a structured way to go find the Reading Partners program, and is the district committed to funding it?
Well, I can only speak as one member of the board, but I will tell you that we do have these programs in place.
Okay.
They're not, they're not all with outside vendors.
Okay.
I think I said 18, maybe 19 with Reading Partners. But I think the short answer is yes. And if you give us the problem that we've got thousands of volunteers that we can't accommodate, that would be a classy problem to have. But I think as a practical matter, we'll be able to accommodate the number of volunteers that you all will raise for us if you go this route.
Okay, just if I might, a personal, is there background checks required to volunteer?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Don't misconstrue the question for
Yes.
the public record. It was just out of curiosity.
SRCs are required of anybody who works with kids.
Okay. Anyone else? I think we appreciate the time you've spent with us, and thank you for getting on the record before our clock ran out.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again, I appreciate your work.
We appreciate you saying that. Let me, and I'm going to assume that Trustee Jones will not be here. As I said, she left me a message, and for personal reasons was not able to, she thought she might not be able to make that. So we're on item 5, which in front of you, I just wanted to give you, to show you that we have made a difference in Austin. What you have before you, whether it becomes legislation or not, Commissioner Flory said no, it would not happen. I talked to someone in Austin, and these two bills, one is the Senate version, the SB is the Senate version, and the HB is the House version. The House version is redlined, so you can see Chapter 12 marked out, and I was told by someone I respect in Austin that these bills had a chance of getting out of committee, which doesn't mean they'll get passed, but they could get out of committee. But if you read it, you will see
I've been kind of skimming
I was
and
Yes.
reading it, yeah, it's quite interesting.
where someone was actually listening to us was my first point to you, because I'm looking at Commissioner Ranger, who argued over more than one meeting that a charter was a charter, and now it's called the local school district.
local control.
Local control.
Is the
So,
euphemism at this point.
I'm just curious if Commissioner Ranger helped revise the bill, but I don't. That's a rhetorical question, Commissioner Ranger.
I can answer that for you. Absolutely not.
But I will tell you, the one thing I found, aside from the thresholds and, you know, all the things that they responded to by listening to what we heard and our questions. So I'm taking a lot of, hey, I was not asked to testify, by the way. I don't know if any of you were. I consider us the 15 resident experts, and found it ironic that no one bothered to contact any of us to come to Austin to weigh in on this, but I'm saying that for the record, by the way. If you go to page, and I'll tell you, that just troubled me, if you go to page 5, now when you see something struck out in a red line version, and I'll let the lawyers correct me here, that means it's removed. And if you look and you read this thing, it removes the elementary class size limits under the law. Now, even in chapter 12 that we discussed, that was still in there. And forget the political process of 5% instead of 25%, 2/3 of the board can initiate this, and you have an election at the November election. And but when I looked at this because I put these things on my alert just because I like politics. So I read that and I went, wow, we didn't even conceive that someone would strike the 1 to, I think, correct me, 22?
1 to 22.
That someone would strike that. But there you have it. I'm looking at our early childhood person in Benita, Commissioner Reese. I have no idea. In the Senate it was left in committee, but doesn't mean it can't get voted out. They had a day of hearing, so for the record, Trustee Morath spoke in favor of the Senate version. TASB, the School Board Association, spoke against it. The GISD's official position is they're not taking any position. This is really for your information, and I think it reflects, frankly, the changes that were made, the concerns that were raised before us. And the Senate version and the House version are virtually the same. But the red line version actually gives you the indication about the changes people wanted to make. There was a group called Texans for Education Reform that spoke on behalf of this. So, and you can Google them and see who's involved in that group. But I thought it was in reaction to our work, whether you like it or not. It's your own opinion, but clearly we were heard, for better or worse, again, depending on your point of view. And I'm done, Commissioner.
No, I was going to say, when I read this, I too found it unsettling for me.
Sure.
That the elementary class size limits would be struck out. I mean, that is one of the things that Texas has been very proud of, as opposed to other states, is that we do take care of our little ones. And it also struck me that was the only thing under Chapter 12, the only requirements under Chapter 12 that was struck out. Everything else stayed the same.
Yeah.
And so I would be very concerned, and I think the citizens of this state, and certainly the constituents of this district, ought to be very concerned if elementary class size limits are taken off the books. Because you could have classes with 38, 40 kids, which would just be untenable.
So again, not knowing, but it is in committee. It's been marked up. Both committees received testimony, and this has just happened between this meeting and our previous meeting. I asked Mr. Harris to print it off as information because we're in it, and I do believe this is a response to exactly all the issues we discussed, except this elementary school thing, which really kind of made me sit up. So Whatever you do individually with your own representatives or trade associations or professional associations, if you want to weigh in, I think the situation is fluid. If you go to the Texas Legislature website, you can actually get alerts. If you go follow the navigation, put in the bill numbers, and they will let you know and track the action. If any of you feel like you know a legislator and you'd like to opine, or if there's going to be testimony given again, depending on your experience here, I would say that's something you might want to think about. It would not be an official position of us because we will, not be commenting. We're out of bounds? Okay, so I'm out of bounds, so I got as far out of bounds as I can. You see where he's sitting tonight. He knew I would have an out of bounds error. So for the record, I retract what I just said.
Whatever it was.
Whatever it was.
So, I was just going to say it. Reckless designs end up with reckless results. So I really don't put a lot into anything that looks like it isn't going to pass the test. And a lot of this isn't going to pass the test. At the end of the day, the scores have to be strong, and if you think you can tinker with things that have a proven track record and get better results, I think you're going to be disappointed in the end. So that's it for me.
Yeah. Again,
I retract all that too.
Again, I'm not asking for comments, just informational. All right. So I think it was fair to distribute it because it reflects a point of view on the work that we did, and so noted.
Correct me if I'm reading this wrong, but my reading of this is that it eliminates a commission.
Yes, it does.
So
it does.
It was just it's kind of amusing. So we made,
kind of like
if
a
this
little
were
picture
to
of a
pass,
cartoon
we would
with
be the
X's to
first
the
and
eyes.
the last.
I'm sorry, what?
I was to say, if this were to pass, we would be the first and the last.
Yeah.
Go down in history.
Only.
Yes. So we will forever be in the book of Texas history, and whether this was done in response to our work.
Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah, the commission was struck from both bills. And I thought all of you would find that interesting. I just say on a personal note, I don't think it reflects poorly on me that the commission was taken out of the bill, and I think I can say that for the record. So, having said that, let us move forward to the next agenda item, because it does talk about how the question was raised by Commissioner Vasey, how we get out. And so, in talking to Coach Harris and what we've actually told the public we would do and the work that is left, let me just summarize it this way. We are going to have a governance subcommittee meeting tomorrow. You're all invited. That group has worked hard. You'll notice that it's my intention to meet on the 4th, so that group can, through its chair, Commissioner Eisen-Newson, share its work and be sure that it's put in the body of all our work and gets posted as we decide at the 4th if we take Trustee Mitch Kay's idea and do something formal with it or not. But that would be a summary meeting. If you noticed, we had agreed previously that the final presentation as chair, a letter I would convey, and I intend to do no more than that, would be at the board May 28th meeting when they turn over the newly elected people potentially and have a new body, which then really circles the 18th. You know, we've already agreed to the June meetings being not meeting, and we have to formally have a motion tonight to strike those. I am going to call the meeting, and if nothing else, Commissioner Mullinson has asked to have it because he wanted to be here for say goodbye to everybody and thank each of us. So, you know, that's just the kind of professional courtesy, and I'm sure we'll have a quorum. So that leaves the 18th. And my feeling now, having put it on the agenda, that if we just suspend that to the 4th to see if we want to do the 18th, we for certain can vote tonight to formally cancel the June meetings, letting you know that it's my intention to have a meeting on the 4th. So at minimally, we hear the governance report and any other ideas people want to share. We can have on that agenda whether or not we meet on the 18th to see if there's anything else we want to do or just wrap it up. And I will urge everyone to come. I have been told by Commissioner Mendez that he's done, basically. So I don't think we'll see him back. I didn't hear from Commissioner Gutierrez. I texted and I got no response. So, I think we're going to get quorums, and we'll be able to certainly have a meeting on the 4th. And I feel strongly we ought to have an affirmative decision. If that, after the 4th, if that would be it, then we formally have to vote to cancel the 18th, and then the public will know we won't be convening, and then technically we expire on the 19th, but we have canceled our all meetings, so that's in the public record. So that's how I see it going forward. The 4th, so on this agenda, I would just ask that we reserve the 18th, that decision to May 4th, entertain a motion to cancel the June meetings, see where we go on the 4th, right? Have the reports, have our concluding statements like we heard, and then decide if put the 18th back on the 4th agenda and then formally cancel it on May 4th. If we need to. So that's how I see a way forward. So what I would like is a discussion of that, and then when we're ready, I would break this up in 2 parts. For sure, take a motion on the June meetings, and then ask you to suspend or table's the word, the 18th meeting until we know what happens on the 4th, and give everyone who can come to that meeting, and I will make a huge push to get all 15 of us here, though I don't think we'll see everybody again. Commissioner Eisenhuis.
I support what you just said in terms of maintaining the meeting on the 4th and the 18th at this point. And therefore, I'd like to make a motion that we cancel the June 1st, 2015 meeting of the Dallas Home Rule School District Commission and the June 15, 2015 meeting of the Home Rule School District Charter Commission.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Eisenhuis, seconded by Commissioner Ranger and Commissioner Reese, that the published meetings for June 1st, 2015 and June 15th, 2015 of the Home Rule School District Charter Commission be canceled. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none in opposition, the motion carries unanimously. I would then say, I would just, as chair, table the 18th, contingent on what happens on the 4th. I will re-put the 18th meeting as a contingent notification under TOMA to cancel that meeting. At the end of our 4th meeting, if there's a consensus to do that, we'll have a legal way to do it, and the 4th would be our concluding meeting. I have nothing to add tonight other than I've been going through all the materials we've gotten. I am double checking with Mr. Harris that it all get posted in case I miss something. If you want to check, please check directly with him that everything you wanted posted gets posted for the record. And one more time, I cannot say enough about the team here at the ISD who supported our work.
Mr. Chair, you did note that the governance subcommittee is meeting
It's
tomorrow.
at 3.
It's at 3 p.m. here at the administration building. And I would ask members of this body who are not members of that committee, if you cannot make the meeting, but there are things that you would want us to consider, please email me tonight, and I will make sure that they are included as part of our discussion on tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you. If there's no further business, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So,
Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Freeman, seconded by Commissioner Vacy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned at 7:08.